Hi, everybody. This is 1,911 days. 11 days. Okay, since Richard was forcibly removed from the barracks room there, right there at on El Paso, on Fort Bliss. Sorry, it's late. We're at midnight again. We're at midnight. No time to sleep, and just happy day. We've had great weather, and just getting a lot done, and also fighting behind the scenes. So we are at, let me try it again. We are at day 1911 since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss, and he was taken to a soundproof room there on Fort Bliss, and his life was taken from him. His body was then stolen. It was absolutely stolen, taken off base. He was dismembered, and his body was trafficked across the border. That the question is, how much of him was trafficked across the border? Because, as many of you know, we have three autopsy numbers, um, and the uh, evidence is showing now that there is a funeral mortuary cartel run with a Mormon faction cartel run. If you don't know about the Mormon area there, the pipeline, that it goes down to Colonial Juárez and Nova Casa Grandes and Colonial Dublin. That's where their big temple is. Also in Juárez is their big temple. And this I'm not picking on any religion. I'm just saying that in Richard's case, there is a Mormon faction common denominator flowing through all of this. And of course with the cartels, that they're in cahoots with the cartels, and we know that with the LeBaron family uh, a massacre. We know that through that investigation, that this Mormon faction is indeed in operation with the cartels. And so, when it comes to Richard's case, I saw this very, very early on. We saw it in our family. We were like, "Well, why are all these people from this Mormon faction? They're up to no good, right? Um, and so, and then of course, we were always told the cartel are not involved, the cartel are not involved. And of course, the cartel are involved. They're involved in a very, very big way. So, um, let me make sure that I'm on and everything. Okay. Where are these people? Thank you, Anicia, for coming on so late. Thank you so much for your love and your prayers, and your stars, the angels from heaven, which I put up a prayer not too long ago today, asking for God to send his angels to um, protect us and strengthen us, and to send them to Richard's remains and to guard his remains home. Um, that is really a huge prayer for us. And we're getting very close. I can tell you that. We're getting very close. And, in our faith, to work is to pray, and to pray is to work, right? So, because, with God, everything is a communion. So you have to do your part too, right? You have to do your part. And I can tell you right now that God's hand has been all over this case. Miracles have happened, absolutely miracles. And I don't think that people realize, unless you were, day in and day out, like many of you have been, witnessing the miracles that have happened in this case. Um, just the evidence piling up, the clear evidence. And today I'm going to reveal some more evidence that has come to us. It's really shocking, but it's not shocking because it is just another puzzle piece that fits very cozily, evilly. I don't know what do you call it. It just fits into this case, and it's just so evil. Um, let's get started. Uh, Well, as you all know, this case started with a really big tip, and that tip was from the command. And that tip was their lies, um, their cover up. They were clearly covering up. There was clearly a lot of shaking going on, a lot of fear going on. Remember, I called the command sergeant major Shaky Jake? He was absolutely scared as hell. He was absolutely shaking like crazy and up to no good. He didn't have the courage to do what Richard did, to stand up to this evil and be a victor, right? Be a victor, and watch over the soldiers. And the same thing with General Stewart, Brigadier General Stewart. Now he got his second star. I guess he had that. He had that talk with the devil, and he took the deal. Um, uh, because when he came on to, because they got rid of everybody. Once they heard that we were coming, they just got rid of everybody. And they put in a lot of new people, and one of them was David Stewart, and he was like just so oblivious to what was going on when we first talked to him. But he gave us a lot of information that we weren't supposed to know, like about the audits, about all the guns, about the girls coming on well, that was Command Sergeant Major. They just thought that was normal for some reason. I mean, they were just so it was very shocking, the whole thing. Um, but their talking gave us a lot of information. Underage girls shouldn't go on to base, shouldn't get passes through DES, Thomas Kane, during a lockdown, right? And to be parties and to be on in the barracks partying. I don't care. You just don't do that because it really opens a door to a lot of blackmail because a lot of these girls, and so there's a lot of filming going on with all of the phones and a lot of blackmail. And that was happening, and a lot of them were mules, a lot of drugs, and this was all told to us at rallies and going through this whole thing. So those were really really big tips because we knew that some everything was so insane that something really bad happened to Richard. And of course, the cover up of Nadal Bayim, uh, being the father in law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado, that was of the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM. That was really big, covering that up. And we had to discover, and this was a miracle, who he was, right? And so we knew that there were, a, breaches everywhere in security. We knew there were a lot of drugs. We knew there were a lot of young girls. We knew that there was trafficking going on because of all the weapons and the ammunition. We knew that this was political because of the Walmart mass shooting. We knew that. We did not know the extent to it, but we knew it. And then we had people like Ruiz Aguilar, um, and of course Sammy C. and others surround us. Many trying to mislead us, put us in different directions. It was an operation, and um, we knew that it was stinky. And I said it over and over again online. We had a family meeting, and in that family meeting, we decided a lot of things, and one of them was that we would have these live broadcasts every day. That had to be, and that I would do them. That I would do them, and because the attacks, and then they could only attack one person, right? Just, you know, so keep it very narrow, because they absolutely, as more and more information came out, of course, their true colors came out and the attacks started. So uh, it was really clear that this was something very, very big. They absolutely lied to us about Richard's being murdered, and they had media on their side because you're dealing with the big green machine, and those are infiltrated by deep state operatives. And that sounds crazy, but um, I think that at this point, people know that we are um, very careful in what we say. We back it up with hard evidence. And we caught our CAO, which is a casualty affairs officer, engaging in attacks against us, engaging in organized attack against us. Um, this is our casualty affairs officer, right? Of course, this was for General Garrett. General Garrett, who was the general over Vanessa Guillen, was in deep, deep trouble. And of course, uh, they decided, and we know this through the office of Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, and his I guess secretary assistant, executive assistant, or whatever, that everything that they did with Richard's cover up was because they didn't want to have another Vanessa Guillen situation. And so they did everything they could, and they gave the public a show, didn't they? With the task force find Richard Halliday. You know, it was for the military community, right? For the law enforcement community. Those are the ones that were paying attention, and they gave them this dog and pony show. It costs loads of money, y'all, loads of taxpayer money to do a show. Why do I call it a show? It's because there was no operational order, no follow up, no oversight, no nothing. It was just a show. And 15 plus agencies were there, the largest that any case has ever seen. And now we're up to, oh gosh, we have so many, way over 20 agencies involved in this. And so, there was just, it was very clear that, that this was a cover up, and that big actors were involved. And of course, we have found out that Richard was reporting um, on his unit's connection with the Walmart mass shooting. He was reporting on the Walmart mass shooting orchestration, the irregularities with it. Um, Richard wanted to be CID. Um, ever since I can remember, watched all the PI movies, right? All the PI movies like Sherlock Holmes, like Monk, like Psych, like, on and on. Columbo, he loved private investigators and figuring out crime. And this is why he became a whistleblower. This is why he joined the military. He wanted to be a CID agent. And we know that he absolutely was working towards that. Um, so he was a whistleblower, okay? And they never wanted to say his accolades. because he had a lot of accolades, and the media never wanted to say his accolades, because the media is a record, and the media is a record for Google. The media is a record right now for AI. So anytime you write about Richard, you should write about his accolades, because it is a record. And when people search, especially law enforcement, um, you want them to know who Richard really is. And that's why the media has this grip of fake news, because when cases use court cases use articles and information that is out there, that has been documented. And so that's why they write the way they do. They write for the algorithm, they write for the search algorithm. And that's why they make all these illusions, and and they form fake news. They absolutely put out fake news. And they never said Richard's accolades, like that he was a distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training and also in AIT. So he's a double, um, number one in basic training and number one in his AIT. They didn't want people to say that, because I was running a website. Uh, I was just taking classes. I was paying to take classes on how to put out advertisement for our new business, um, and how to get the right messaging out there. And so, this was also a miracle, because I could see everything that I had gone through in my training. I could see that that's what they were doing, that they were playing to the algorithm to make Richard look bad, to not say one word that he had clept out of 6 hours of college math and 6 hours of college German when he was 15 years old. That's 12 college credits right there, boom, with just two tests. And he did that at the age of 15. That he was a black belt in karate, um, that he wanted to be a CID agent, that he was the fastest runner in his unit, that he was the guidon bearer in his unit, that, they did not want to document his accolades, his character, because he has a very good character, so good that, he could get through all of what they did with all the retaliation and the traps that they did. Um, because they wanted to compromise all of our soldiers, because they were running trafficking through Fort Bliss, and they wanted to compromise the soldiers so that they would have no whistleblowers. Whistleblowers are their worst nightmare. And so, thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you so much. Yes, it's a beautiful prayer. Thank you so much. Um, and so this was very clear messaging to us that this was a cover up. Because if you're, truly looking for a missing soldier, you would put out their accolades, right? Tell people who they really are, because that's who you're really searching for. But his Interpol profile was tampered with the image, the overlay image of his platoon leader, Dallas Hart. Um, that's also crazy, right? Where did they get that information? Where did they get the photo? And that came from Delia Briones's county clerk's office. That's she leaked Richard's file information. So we knew that something was very wrong with Delia Briones. And as time has gone on, she's a major player in this criminal trafficking, because she certifies it all, right? She certifies. Her position is so powerful, y'all. It's so big. and I think she lives really close to Rick Francis. $1 million houses, because this position is that big. And of course, the medical examiner with, $500, 500,000, and I say that because on the open records, it's not it's not up to a half a million a year, but because he also takes fees from being a witness on cases, you have to add extra to his wages. He makes others. And then, of course, he's connected to the cartel. He's connected to this trafficking. The evidence is absolutely clear. Just on taxpayer money, he, makes through these years $5 million. And so this is really, and that is by corrupting or botching every case he touches, okay? Every autopsy he touches, because he's not qualified, he's not legal. And Veronica Escobar brought him in. And then, of course, Veronica Escobar was absolutely up to no good in all of this. She refused to do a congressional twice, which told us, okay, she is and there's other things about her office targeting us, um eh, that shows that, okay, that verifies she's up to no good and that she's in on this. Of course, she's a Beto O'Rourke, and this is the big news, but she's a Beto O'Rourke person. That's her ally, and of course, Woody Hunt is the big billionaire power broker. I don't know if he has a billion. I think he does. Um, but he's the big power broker, the Mormon faction power broker, and they when they and I believe that they took that 2020 election. I don't think it was fair and square at all. I don't think it at all. I know it wasn't fair and square at all because I was at J6. I was at J6 in front of the Capitol. I know what happened. I know that there were FBI. I absolutely talked to so many people there because I was working the crowd for Richard, handing out flyers and handing out loads, backpacks full of prayer candles. So I absolutely know that what they're saying, about 300 when you include the informants, um, FBI agents there at January 6th. That's huge, y'all. That is so big. And, don't tell me that there were so many agents there and they allowed um, the chaos to go on at the Capitol building. Okay. um, and they just allowed it to happen. No, anybody, if it was a true insurrection, they would never even allow that to happen. They would have protected our country, right? Our capital. But these were agents that were, I would say, forced to be traitors. Some of them absolutely traitors. Others forced to be traitors, of, fearful to lose their livelihood for their family. And they were up to no good. They were instigators. They were absolutely instigators. So, but the area that I was in, now that was up around the Capitol building, which we witnessed from afar. But there were so many people there, and that's why I said this was, um, you know, really Americana, and they took advantage of that, right? They took advantage up at the other area, and with the tear gassing and all of that stuff. Um, so we knew, we've because of these 5 years, we've had a very good sense. Well, we've collected evidence that shows that this is really big, that this is really, really big. And of course, now and that it crossed the border, and now it's cartel, absolutely cartel, and it is absolutely the government of Chihuahua. The government of Chihuahua is a narco state. There is absolutely no doubt we have the hard evidence from Cesar Paneche to Carlos Manuel Salas to Cesar Hargi to Governor Maria Eugenia um, Galvan Campos to her mother, Maria Eugenia Galvan, and don't forget that there's another Maria Eugenia Lavarette Roth that was executed in the parking lot at the Walmart, and clearly the video shows that it could not have been Patsy that did the dirty work. Okay, it had to be somebody else, and we have so many witnesses that there were multiple shooters. So and hers was very close range. It was absolutely it's bad. It's bad. So we have yeah, verification of that, hard evidence of that. And of course the German national, and for German national and Maria Eugenia, who clearly was very well connected in Juarez to this group. um it just and of course Alexander Hoffman and his connections. This He was absolutely connected to the cartel also. Both of them were. So this, then you get into the Anchandos, who were also connected to Mario Raskin Ortiz, the medical examiner. Um, so you go through down a rabbit hole looking at all of the victims, because you have David Johnson being on the same street, living on the same street as criminal and liar and the mouthpiece for the false narrative, Ernest Christopher Grant, who absolutely lied. He absolutely lied. It's not me that said he lied. It was the El Paso Police Department that said he lied, because his lies were so egregious and they just could not even sustain it, even though the police were up to no good because they couldn't even secure the crime scene for over 48 hours. Um, but the media runs cover for them, right? The media absolutely runs a cover for them, and it says, oh, they did such a great job and everything. And, they don't tell you Manny Chavira's part in that. They don't tell you the Chan brothers' part in that. They don't tell you Richard's unit's part in the Walmart mass shooting. They don't tell you those things, right? They just give you some flowery little article, and it's fake news. It's fake news. So and over again it's the same thing. So um so we know that Richard was reporting on the Walmart mass shooting orchestration. We also know that he was reporting on the criminal trafficking, that this whole thing with Belen Rocha is part of this, part of the retaliation. Also, the operatives. Also, she's absolutely an operative for this cartel group, and like Danae Katzen, and they have their parts, right? They all have their parts. So we knew that the crime level had to be a network, a business network. It had to be connected to somebody really big. And we know that it's connected to Woody Hunt. We absolutely know that, right? And of course, he and Veronica Escobar, their ally is Beto O'Rourke. And we know that Danae Katzen, um, was campaigning for Beto O'Rourke, um, and others like Clem Coward's wife, right? Major General Richard's general's wife was. Was this was a really big political thing, and their enemy was President Trump because he wanted to secure the border and stop the criminal trafficking, and and he was doing audits. Okay, he was doing audits. So this was, fight for their life because they could go to jail, right? Or they could lose their visa, right? They could lose their visa. They could lose if they lose their visa, they lose their bank account. So that's why you have this huge group that really hates President Trump because they're up to no good. They're absolutely up to no good. And some of them are just misled because there is no shortage of fake news out there, right? There's no shortage of fake news. But we've had this unique position to see beyond the fake news, to look behind the curtain, as to speak, right? To clean the foggy window and actually see through it. We've had this opportunity through all of this, and I, want to tell you right now that President Trump, with his administration, as much mutiny as there is, and there is mutiny, okay, and there is, so there is a lot of kickback, and you're going to hear about it. I'm sure you already have heard about it, but he is so focused. He's so focused they can't stop him, and he knows that Beto O'Rourke was part of this participation in the false narrative with the Walmart mass shooting. If he was that, then he knew that the Walmart mass shooting was orchestrated, right? So he knows that Beto O'Rourke was up to no good with this plan, and was in conjunction, pushing, going to the hospital and pushing Ernest Christopher Grant, and absolutely Ernest Christopher Grant was up to no good. And I think that that's why Johnson even lost his life there, um, because the story and the videos don't add up, and he did lose his life. Um, and, you know, um, and he is a Mendez Melendez, um, related to the canine officer that targeted Richard, with Belen. So, yes, it just, so can you have a victim's family, being related to uh, a dirty officer that targeted your son to, um, try to discredit him in any way possible? I don't, that's just not, that doesn't happen by coincidence. Okay. So, you can put two and two together on that one. Um, so knowing that these were big players, because it's a big operation, right? There had to be big players. And then President Trump absolutely going full force in the last months, revealing what's really going on, that the criminal trafficking was real. And you see that with the Plenitude Crematorium. You see that with the arrests of Delta One, with all the other extradition of the cartel leadership, some of them part of finance, big finance people. And these aren't these aren't little thugs, right? This is organized crime. Um, and then, of course, you have the likes of Rafael Arellano Caron, who's wife has a transportation LLC, right? Where is she transporting to? Right? Where is she trucking to? Right? And has a house right beside Beto O'Rourke. And also is a senior, I don't know if it's editor or whatever, but a senior something over at the city magazine. So, of course, controlling narratives and cover, and then having a transportation business, a trucking business, and then being the wife of the owner of a flesh peddling cartel body disposal um, scam recycling body recycling scam. And so being right next to Beto O'Rourke, that's not a coincidence, y'all. Okay. And then of course the latest arrest of El Pato is, really big because he um, he knows where the bodies are. Okay, that's what his job was. He knows where the bodies are, and that leads to Del Carmen, um, and to Plenitude Crematorium. So, in retaliation for that arrest, along with Del Carmen's Nancy Arriago or whatever, and her family, they kidnapped and tortured and killed the AG's pilot. Um, the pilots also know a lot, y'all. They also know a lot. So, that is a very, very big deal in all of this. It connects a lot of dots. And then you have La Diabla, which is, so bad, it's unspeakable. It's absolutely unspeakable. And, they're promising jobs. I don't know if they were promising jobs at Dreams Cabaret, right? I don't know if that's what they were promising these young girls. Well, once you have your baby, you can come work at Dreams Cabaret and make all this money and get over to the States. I don't know if that's what she was asking, but that's a good question, right? That's a really good question because she was luring these girls with jobs. And from our sources, she had trained very young girls, like 14 to 16 years old, to do these C sections, these illegal C sections. And during those illegal C sections, um, sometimes the babies would die, right? And of course the mother would die. And where is Veronica Escobar in all of this? I thought she cared about women, right? Because this has been reported. It's been out there for a few months now. Where is she? Her silence is grotesque. Um, and so and expected because she's part of this whole thing. She's part of this. She's cover, whatever you want to call it. Uh, so um, these young girls not only lose their life and lose their baby, but they lose their organs. There's organ harvesting going on. And these babies, the target for these babies were homosexual couples, American homosexual couples. That's not me. That's what has been reported. That was the quote, American homosexual couples. Um, that's the target. It is shocking. It's just the whole thing is so so terrible when you have 14 to 17-year-olds or whatever to being trained to do C-sections, and oops, they goofed up, and okay, we'll just put it all at the crematorium, right? We'll just dump it all at the crematorium, or oops, we'll just dump at the crematorium, or they're at Del Carmen. We'll just give Nancy a call and say, "Hey, Del Carmen, we have our usual package, but we have an oops too." Um, so this is so the lady that was organizing this to happen, Martha, Martha Mendez, Martha, what is it? Sylvia Mendez Aguilar. Okay. And then there's those names again, Mendez Aguilar. Um, so she seems to have, with her family, ties to Stanton Street. Stanton Street is Beto O'Rourke. Okay, is Beto O'Rourke, and her family has major ties with that. Okay, um, so you have Plenitude Crematorium, and that's breaking news, right? I'm sorry, it's just gets so late. It just gets so late. There's no time to sleep because we have to give out this breaking news. Um, we cannot sit on any news. We have to give this to you, that this La Diabla is connected to Beto O'Rourke. That's what it looks like. That's what it absolutely looks like through Stanton Street, through his own business, um, and her family being employed there, and her connection with Stanton Street and Beto O'Rourke. And this is a lady that would be the organizer of illegal C-sections, baby trafficking, targeting homosexual partner American couples, and the organ trafficking. Okay, and the organ trafficking. This is and Veronica Escobar is silent on this. She's absolutely silent. When the connection is with Beto O'Rourke and even Hunt, even Hunt. Um, so it all comes together because we know that they're connected with Plenitude Crematorium, with Arliano Quran, just living so close to each other. I mean, it's so close. You absolutely know each other, especially when you're in that um, kind of income bracket. It's everyone's job to know each other when you're in that kind of income bracket. It's called the who's who, right? The who's who. So this is really the huge breaking news that we wanted to get out to everybody, to ask you to share it. Make sure that you share it. It will get scrutinized if you share it. And that's why it's so important to put it out there, and let the truth come out. So this is where we're at. We're at that, uh, the I think for El Paso, um, I think it's good not to vote for any Democrats this time, just until they get the infiltrators out. Get the infiltrators out. And I know there's infiltrators, the rhinos or whatever you call them in the Republicans, I understand. But for El Paso, it's because El Paso is Democrats, okay? It's Democrats. They're the ones that are the best organized there, and they're up to no good, y'all. They're part of this Mormon faction cartel, trafficking at the worst level. And that's why I say what I do. Yes, I am a Trump supporter because of everything that he has done that Biden could have done, didn't do. President Trump has done. And, but I'm not one to, try to point you to a certain way. I'm telling you that the Walmart mass shooting was used to target President Trump. Whether you're on one side or not, it's wrong. Um, they absolutely use that. And that Fort Bliss was targeted because of the federal control of it. And that's why that's why they were shaking. That's where they were shaking. And there's so much money involved in Fort Bliss, so much money. So I hope that everyone understands those connections with all of that and why it's so important to share this information and not hold on to it, but absolutely share it. Because this shows you that President Trump, with everything that he's doing, he's revealing the truth. And that is what I just did for you today, is because of President Trump, his revealing the truth with Plenitude Crematorium, with Del Carmen, with the type of trafficking that they're doing and their target audience. Uh, so it's really important to share this information because uh, if we want to make our country better again, uh, we've got to um, have the rule of law and not let all these infiltrators have their way with us. I guess that's the best way to say that. So thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Anicia. And I will be back.